another day on this crazy road. Sometimes I guess we both don't know where this little love is going.
This week, the video is all about bumping up. So before we bump up our plants, we want to make sure that you give your soil a test, especially if you're making your own soil like Harriet and I do. But also, if you are buying soil, sometimes the balance is a little bit off. Not very often, but occasionally. So I like to test my soil. I knew that I'd be bumping up my broccolis like within the next couple of days when I put these guys in their test tube. So I decided I had to test my soil ahead of time. So what I did is I took a variety of plants. So I took a lettuce, a tomato, and a couple of peppers, but here's one pepper, and put them in the new soil to ensure that it wasn't too hot and that they were good. I see that there's new growth on both the tomato, all the tomatoes, the peppers, and the lettuce. So, Rex, could you do me a favor? I'm gonna get you to get that lettuce for me. So this is lettuce that I bumped up, and just to show you the difference. So when you bump up a plant, you're bumping them, the lettuce down there, sweetheart. When you're bumping up a plant, you're doing it for two reasons. You're bumping up to give it, thank you, sweetie. Then you're trying to give it a bigger home, but also bumping up the nutritional value in the soil. So we're no longer in that baby seed soil, we are now in the transplant soil. So just to give you an idea of the difference. So this I bumped up almost 2 weeks ago. I see there's new growth on it, the plant looks healthy. This one I bumped up yesterday because I could see that this one was doing well, so I knew the soil was safe. And you can see the difference. This here, it was starting to lack nutrition because it was in a smaller pot, like just a couple days ago, well, yesterday actually. So it needed to be bumped up, but I wanted to make sure that it was that the soil was good first. I also wanted to show you the difference between the bump up soil and the older soil, like the seed soil. The seed soil gave it what it needed to get bigger, to germinate, but eventually, just like a baby would, you give them more than a formula or milk. So anyway, that's your first lesson in bumping up. Test your soil and make sure that it's the next thing up. Welcome to the greenhouse. Rex is doing here for me is he's putting sphagnum inside all these little pots. Sphagnum has a lot of purposes, sphagnum moss. It helps keep the water so the plants actually they don't dry out as fast. It also keeps the roots from shooting through the bottom of the pot, getting tangled and damaged on the way out. Doing the bump up today, we are going to be bumping up the kale, the broccoli, the cabbage, and the kohlrabi, root celery, and celeriac. I won't go through the whole process of every single one, just a few of them, and then I'll turn this off. So the first things you need, obviously bigger containers. They are currently in these little pods right now, and they are way too big. So I'm just going to pop that guy right there. So you need a bigger container, soil mix, either a recipe that you make by yourself or a mix that you buy from the store. And this might seem a little odd to you, but sphagnum moss. We collect this every fall, and what we do is we put a bit of sphagnum moss, dried sphagnum moss, break it up, and put it at the bottom. Fill the tray up with, the pot up with enough dirt, like so. Label it if you need to. I have little tags with what each and everything is on the seeds. Rex got all of these ones ready for me. Thanks, Rex.
You're welcome.
And pop your little guy in there. You're done. What I would recommend though is putting your stem up quite high so that they build a little bit of stability. The broccoli and that can totally handle some of their stem being covered. If you felt like taking off that little cloth sheet, you sure can. And then you just pop it in your tray, like so. I do like to get my trays ready ahead of time. So what I do is I actually put two trays together, as you can see, and I put a plastic bag in between each one. So this is actually a milk bag that I know has no holes in it, and I stick it in between. Now I do that so that I can actually pour water in the tray itself, and then the soil and the moss absorbs it from the bottom, and the roots then are going to gravitate downwards, so they grow a little bit more sturdy, as opposed to pouring it over top, which doesn't, sometimes it can do damage to the leaves, and also pushes the dirt up and it overflows and that. This way you just pour it in there, everything just absorbs it, just make sure it's on a level thing. Anyway, that's how to bump up. I'll do one more just for fun. Alright, so I'm going to take this guy. Oh yeah, he's happy to get a new home. Here's a pre-made one. Nice damp soil. I dig quite a deep hole in there. I pop my broccoli pretty deep in there. Pour the dirt, push the dirt around it gently. Put my tag back in there so that I know what variety it is. I'm also a very big recycler, so these little tags is actually just like an old margarine container that I cut up and then put a little label on. And every time I bump the plant up, I just put the label with it. And the milk bags, and all of these pots are just pots that have been reused from year to year, along with the trays. So that just makes it a little bit more environmental, and yeah, the planet's a little happier. And it's also way more economical. Okay, yes, sweetie. Excuse me. So we use soil. We use a little bit of Epsom salt. We put bone meal, blood meal. What else do we put in there? Some very well composted stuff. Sometimes mushroom compost. I know Harriet really likes that. And if sometimes we'll put some magnesium, not often. Yeah, but before you even start mixing your soil, you're going to want to know what your soil in your garden's like too, if it's lacking anything. Because any of those things that I just mentioned, we're putting in the amount that we know we need. We live in the boreal forest area, so there's a lot of coniferous trees, obviously, which means that we have a very high acidity in our soil. So we need to make our soil a little bit more basic.
And I don't know why, but I guess what makes us stronger through the years are the tears and the fear.